Welcome back to the program. Now, thousands of lives are at risk while goats, sheep, cows and camels succumb every day due to the drought that has been ravaging Marsabit County and northern Kenya in general. People are walking as far as 40 kilometers in search of food, water and pasture. Children are malnourished and the elderly cannot handle it. To give us an insight on the situation on the ground, we're joined by Madam Sara Bonaya, a commissioner at the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. Welcome to the program.
Okay, thank you.
Now let's pick this story first before we head to our topic of discussion. Now, the drought situation in Turkana County continues to get worse as statistics from the government now show that children under the age of 10 years are experiencing malnourishment. Turkana Governor Jeremiah Lomurukai has now called on the government to declare hunger as the national disaster.
This is Kangalita village in Loima constituency, Turkana County, 140 kilometers from Lodwar town. In this village, we come face to face with the horrors people here have to contend with. This is the home of Mzee Etelej. Due to hunger and the hardships of life, their two children, Apus and Apua, suffer from malnutrition.
So let's save our people. Let's be active in making sure that Kenyans, there's a child here who cannot walk, cannot sit.
Apus Etelej and Apua Etelej, aged 10 and 13 respectively, have not been going to school due to lack of food. Parents admit that it is difficult to get food and thus depend on these wild fruits known as mkoma for survival.
Watoto familia hii, sasa hii watoto iko watoto hapa miaka 15. Sasa wameshinda wengine hata kuamka kwa nyumba, bado wanazidi kukaa na hakuna kitu ya kukula.
In this village, all people gather here unlike those from other families in the country who cook food in the kitchen. These fruits are picked from a fig tree and are crushed so that they can eat and soothe the stomach.
Nataka serikali atusaidie kwa sababu serikali ni mkono mrefu kwa sababu sisi tumesaulika hapa kaya Loima.
The old people of this area are struggling, with many unable to walk. Agnes Ekai, a 65-year-old mother, has reached a level of being unable to even speak. Leaders from Turkana County, led by Governor Jeremiah Lomurukai, have called on President William Ruto to declare the famine a national disaster.
Nataka tu kwa apili kwa rais wetu declare mambo ya njaa kama ni national disaster. Our people are dying. Atuongee jana ati karibu wakufe, sijui watafanya nini? Watu wetu wameanza kufa.
Tutaanza kuzika watu mapema. Hii jua, it's terribly hot. Declare famine or drought as a national emergency.
Although the national government started plans to distribute food to some affected counties in the country, Turkana County has not yet received relief food as part of the government's program. Some few well-wishers have been assisting the affected families, but their food aid is not enough to help all in need.
We know that Turkana is categorized also already in the alarm stage, so which means that we need to intervene and intervene quickly.
Horrible pictures there. Before we discuss what we have seen, Madam Sara, give us a small brief or introduction on who the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights do.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. Kenya National Commission on Human Rights is an independent commission constituted under the Constitution 2010 as an independent commission to promote human rights and protect human rights in the country, as well as ensure compliance by both public and private, that they comply by the principles of human rights as stipulated by our Constitution, Article 43, among others, as well as international instruments which are guiding us on human rights, the UN instrument, the African Union instrument, and our key role is also our mandate is also well articulated by Article 59, Part 2 of the Constitution. And we also have an article that governs our activities, Kenya National Human Rights Commission Act of 2011. So we are there to promote, to protect, and also to monitor compliance. And we also have capacity to receive report, to investigate,
Yeah.
and where necessary we take public interest litigation. We go to court on behalf of the aggrieved community groups or individuals. Yeah, otherwise we also participate in policy formulation and legislation where we observe gaps to facilitate institutional transformation where there are gaps that allow human rights violation to occur towards Kenyan citizens. So our motto is haki kwa wote kila wakati.
Kila wakati.
So we take care of everybody's right,
Yeah.
whether you are in government or a citizen. Everybody in Kenya has equal right according to our constitution. Yeah.
Now, Marsabit, West Pokot, Baringo, Turkana South has over the years experienced the twin challenges of insecurity and drought, which infringes on the people's rights to life and health. Now, as we speak, nearly 250,000 drought-affected families are facing starvation. Paint for us an honest picture of the humanitarian situation in the area.
Yes, I think the problem is quite serious. Right now we have a red alert of about 6 months in all those affected areas. And as we all know, this is due to climate change, which is very real. It's a global phenomenon. It's not only in Kenya. And countries which used to have winter are now experiencing heat waves. And I think Africa is also having a bigger challenge because of our preparedness. Of course, we are always reactive, not proactive in planning for this cyclic sort of disasters that we have experienced over the years. But more so now, we are in a very serious impact of climate change, which is bound to worsen with time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So it's up to us as a government to be able to make whatever is any possible plan to mitigate. To mitigate the drought and the impact. And with that comes conflict because of because of resource constraints. Conflict naturally comes in. And sadly, most of these areas which are hardly hit, they have had multiple tragedies. You can still remember the locust invasion, which came immediately after the last rain. It literally wiped the pastures and vegetation. So we had a disaster in our environment was completely, the locust actually destroyed the vegetation. Then the COVID came. It put people down, even in our situation. And then the drought came, and the conflict also came. So it's multiple aspects. And where we stand right now, actually peace, like in Marsabit, peace just came because people they have no energy even to fight. They fought, until they couldn't fight anymore. We thank God now there is calm, and the government also took action. And there was an operation that now that has ensured there is peace and tranquility in Marsabit and other areas. I personally visited North Rift to assess the situation.
And how is it, by the way?
Not this time around. I went when there was the previous, like 2 months ago. When there was a heated conflict in the area. And it was serious, very bad, because a lot of displaced people have been displaced, livelihoods have been destroyed, lives have been lost, children have dropped out of school, farms are lying idle, no food, there is a famine actually. Let me ask you this. The Constitution provides for, the protection of the elderly, persons living with disabilities and children, to live in dignity, respect, and be free from abuse. There are other impacts of drought, of course, that we are not really talking about. For example, child labor, prostitution, SGBV, increase of disease outbreaks, poaching, deforestation. To mention a few. Now, how can we best protect and highlight what these people are going through other than the lack of food, and water? I think the situation is worse than we all think. Like I was in Marsabit last week. More in addition to what the issues you have mentioned, highway robbery is becoming rampant. The Morans or the young men who are taking care of their livestock, having lost like 50% or more of their livestock, have now disengaged from the pastoralist lifestyle. So they have nothing to eat or to support themselves or their families. So they are taking to highway robbery, which has become rampant on those highways. And there's a lot of displacement. And people have, normally, traditionally, pastoralists carry their shelter on camels or donkeys. Now those animals are all dead. So it's like they just leave their traditional huts wherever they are. They come and land, start a sedentary life with totally nothing. So it's a big challenge. But fortunately, last week when I went to Marsabit, I was lucky to join a county steering group, Marsabit County Steering Group for emergency response. And I was quite impressed with the kind of planning they were doing, where they were coordinating all the stakeholders to pool their resources, to prioritize, and to be able to have a coordinated and harmonized approach in dealing with this emergency for the next 6 months. And I was also impressed because the directive was coming right from the office of the president through the deputy president's office, and the counties were asked to urgently come up with a plan for the 6 months, which is considered to be a red alert for the drought situation in Marsabit.
Let me ask you this question. There have been, mitigating factors from government and aid organizations who have, of course, taken relief food to the area. But there are challenges, of course, of transport, given how sparsely populated the area is.
Yeah.
As an organization that is well versed with the situation, what is the best way to ensure everyone affected is reached?
Yes, of course, it's a crisis, and the best approach is to get the fastest we can get in terms of food, even medicine, especially to school children, because schools are running, children are not attending school, as the clip has already shown, and we need to have planned well in advance, because these droughts are cyclic. It doesn't come as a surprise. So the government has to have strategic reserve, which should be readily available to the citizens who are in need. The county government also needed to have planned for emergency interventions for things like drought or conflict situation. But we seem to be more reactive than proactive in planning for this. So I think I would urge the government to be able to plan ahead, because as I have already mentioned, climate change is here with us.
It's real.
And we'll get even, we don't know what to expect.
Yeah. But even, as, they get relief food, residents of Marsabit, for example, are predominantly pastoralists whose livelihoods depend on livestock. Almost all of them have, lost their herds, which run into millions of shillings.
Yeah.
How do you feed a stressed population?
Yes, actually, unless we feed them, there's a big challenge. And luckily, when I attended the meeting at the county, in Marsabit in particular, I also managed to contribute, and we discussed how much a household need would be in a distressed population, because they have no any other source of livelihood. And we were guided by World Food Program on a figure. And because the people are saying, well, let's give food aid. Those who get food should not get the cash transfer, and those who get cash transfer should not get food. But we had to come to a standardized kind of figure or approach, because if a household need, let's say, is 20,000 per month, it's on average. So we said either you give half food, half money, because they have nothing else to fall back to, or if it is cash transfer, then you give as per the household need. Yeah.
Besides the loss of livestock, there have been reported cases, of course, of an influx of immigrants from neighboring countries into Kenya, leading to conflicts over the scarce water and food with Kenyans in the area. How do we ensure this does not lead to massive displacements and further worsen the situation?
Yes, we need to, of course, those who are coming in as migrants also are coming due to distress, and I think they are the relevant arms of government and international organizations that deal, and civil society, you know, as stakeholders should take urgent action so that the communities which are already distressed does not get further distressed. So, and this new group now should also be treated and be classified as migrants and given the emergency support they require, but while the citizens also should be considered. And one approach that is also can also be used is the few livestock that are left. You know, maybe they are slaughtered and given, you know, meat is given to the communities. So for now, I think we need to take emergency measures to save lives. It's a red alert, actually.
Yeah. Talk to us about how women are handling the situation, given they are the hardest hit as they have to fend, you know, for their families under very difficult circumstances. What are some of the extremes that have to, you know, like some of the extremes that they have to go through to put food on the table?
Yes, most of in the pastoralist community especially, most of the men folks, they go away with the capital hard, which travel, like now most of them have traveled to Ethiopia from Marsabit. I know from Northeastern, Mandera, Wajir, Garissa, they have gone to Somalia, even in Narok, Kajiado, they have moved maybe across the border. So it's you know, the families are left destitute, women are left with children to fend for, and it's very, very difficult for them to survive, and that's where you get issues like, you know, under 5 malnutrition, because they can't fend for adequately, they lack medicine, the children drop out of school, and all this is a distress to the mother. Yeah. And for their own health, especially the nursing mothers, the pregnant mothers, they are the most vulnerable. They are the same ones also dealing with the elderly, the disabled. They are the caregivers. So I think it is a big challenge on them, especially compounded by the socio-cultural, you know, biases against women, because they still have to go through those negative cultural practices like FGM, early marriage. Actually, when girls drop out of school, the next thing is they get married off. Yeah. So early pregnancy, early marriage, early pregnancy, complicated delivery, and all that. So it's a huge risk, especially to women. It's a bigger challenge. Yeah.
And also, how does your organization, you know, help these women, you know, cope with all that?
Yes, as an organization, our role is to receive complaints from those affected. We also do investigation, we also do fact-finding, and we engage the duty bearers. We don't implement. Yeah, we engage duty bearers, we write a report both to national level and to international level, and we highlight and we advocate, like what I'm doing now. My role here is to advocate on behalf of those who are marginalized. Yeah.
The report.
So we work with other stakeholders. We work with we refer clients when we receive report, we can refer to those who can implement. Because our role is policy and legislation, as well as advocacy, training. So we also do training so that people work in duty in terms of human rights approach, even in planning, in governance. So that is our role,
You know, the report we just saw earlier on the drought situation in Turkana County, where children, you know, under the age of 10 years are experiencing malnourishment. A number of children have also, you know, dropped out of school due to either lack of school fees or unavailability of food, with some, you know, forced into child labor. Besides denying them, you know, a right to education, what other dangers does this pose?
Yeah, quite a lot. There are quite a bit of danger out there for those children. As you our media is full of reports where girls land in the Middle East. Because of desperation, they are trying to fend for themselves, for their families. So without knowing where they are going, without knowing clear terms of engagement, they end up going to foreign countries. Maybe they are being trafficked, they don't know. Maybe there is an organ transplant, syndicate, you don't know. Maybe there is genuine employment, for those who are lucky, we don't know. They don't also get proper, they are not registered with the government. So that is one bigger challenge. I'm also dealing with the issues of migrants. And I think that's one big challenge that is already we are staring at, because we don't know what is actually happening down there. But we hope the current government will take it seriously and ensure that there is proper regulation. There's proper regulation and oversight of this process of migrant labor. In fact, even Ministry of Labor need to come up with clear legislation that guides the process of our young people going out there. So there is quite a bit of challenge, and for those who survive, all those multiple challenges which we have mentioned, the sexual-based, gender-based violence, early marriage, all those desperate situations can happen. So ours is to advocate and engage duty bearers on the way forward.
Okay.
Yes.
There have been, forecasts of failure of rains in northern Kenya for a number of years.
Yeah.
But somehow we are always ill prepared.
Yes.
How much do we pin this on the local and national leadership?
Yes, it's serious. We can't be complaining of the same thing
over and over.
Over and over again. And I think this is a wake-up call that we cannot always be crying wolf, and yet we knew this was coming. This thing is cyclic. I know the weather people already know when the rains will come, when it will fail. Even for farmers, not only pastoralists. Our traditional food baskets, now we are not getting the same yield that we were getting before. And as I've said, as climate change keep on, getting more and more pronounced, I think we'll face bigger challenges. And maybe this is something that we need to also engage other players, international players, because it's not only the pastoralist community, it's actually the farmers, and our neighbors are also getting overwhelmed. So ultimately it might overwhelm everybody, basically because of our current economic state. We are we have unmanageable debt in our hands. We have corruption in our hand, which if we don't manage, it might complicate things even further. High cost of living for everybody. So there are multiple issues that are complicating the drought situation and the climate change situation. So I think the government has to seriously relook at the strategies for mitigating challenges, holistically, so that, because we are not expecting anything better, to come, from climate change. It will just get worse.
And finally, Madam Sara, it cannot always be rescue efforts all the time.
Yes.
What long-term solutions are needed to address the situation, given the unique challenges of Marsabit and northern Kenya in general?
Yes, Marsabit actually stands out. It's always that negative picture of drought, killing, and all that. Unfortunately, I also lost my late husband in one of the peace mission to Marsabit. And it has become a norm, which shouldn't be. So I think the leadership at the county level should be able to look at issues more seriously and in a focused way, prioritizing especially issues of security with the national government, the county commissioners and the governor and the citizen and other stakeholders should seriously come up with interventions that will be able to put an end to this intertribal animosity by finding out the root cause. But unfortunately, some of the root cause is constraint in resource. So as much as you are trying to solve, there is still going to be, deeper crisis. But it shouldn't be reactive. We should be proactive in planning ahead in terms of food security, water, right to water, right to life itself, because people are needlessly losing life, right to housing. Article 43 of the Constitution is very clear. It guarantees us all the many rights, including right to health, which is number one, as a priority right, because unless you are in good health, you are not also productive and you cannot enjoy the other rights. So I think those priority, the articles, the civil and political rights, because most of these conflicts, they result from political, political interest, incitements. So, and the citizens also should learn from the past and knowing the politicians. Once they get into their seats, they are still friends, but you'll have lost your life fighting for tribe this, tribe that, which doesn't exist after the elections. So I think the leadership need to seriously work towards creating harmony and peace and security, and also ensuring that all the different sectors that has been devolved are functioning efficiently. And the funding that has been given should not be, misappropriated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming, Madam Sara. Maybe any final words very quickly for our viewers watching? Yeah,
thank you very much, and thanks for inviting us. Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, as I've already said, is there for you to serve Kenyans, to be able to step in where violation of human rights has occurred. We are not a civil society. There is another organization called Kenya Human Rights Commission, which is an NGO. We are Kenya National Human Rights Commission. We are the government arm that deals with policy, legislation, and engaging government, advising government, and reporting to the government on issues that occur on human rights. So, but we also do, the civil societies are also our partners. We work with many stakeholders to advocate, to mobilize, and as I've said, we have a website on Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. Any violation case, please report, and we shall be able to investigate and take up, even if need be. We do public interest litigation on behalf of the affected. Like the negligence, some of these issues that occur perpetually, maybe it's because of negligence. And communities, because of ignorance, illiteracy, they think that's normal. It's not. The government has a duty and an obligation to safeguard the interests and the rights of the communities. In terms of health, all those rights, education. So the government has to plan, to fund, and ensure that every